Alright guys, here we go again. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. The month of June 2021. Guys, it's almost over. I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but I mean, most of this podcast has been recorded during the Rona, so it's still not over. I'm not going to get too much into it, but we know the recent bans on things such as masks and things like that in a lot of places in the U.S. have been lifted at least since even like March. We noticed people in like Arizona not really wearing masks in places, and you know, I have family in the Midwest where they weren't, you know, in some of the smaller towns, not all, but you know, some of the smaller towns, they weren't really enforcing it. I'm not even gonna get into all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I'm just, you know, today I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, how you guys are doing. Hopefully you're doing good. I've got a podcast I'm kind of pretty pumped up to record today because I'm kind of like really getting back into some stuff, and you know, you guys know I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of kind of self-reflection, trying to do some personal development. Hopefully I'm improving on things. I don't know if I've improved on this podcast, but you know, I'm trying to provide some value and to stuff I don't really see out there. So there's some stuff that, you know, I'm noticing that, you know, since I've been going through these things, and I, you know, am still able to cover my basics, you know, and more. Like, I'm not, like, comfortable, but I'm not, like, suffering so much that, like, I'm drowning, you know. So, I mean, I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying, like, I know my life is, you know, compared to maybe what some people may be going through, I'm really counting my blessings, honestly. And a lot of people are seeing a lot of, like, limited options to no options with a lot of things they're doing. But, you know, once you have your basic needs and everything kind of covered, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to create like a sense of joy and motivation and happiness. And, you know, ultimately most of us just kind of want to feel all right, you know, like maybe if we're not even asking for much, like we don't want to feel numb. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to be sad or angry or depressed or traumatized or anything, you know, anxious, anything super extreme. But, you know, we want to feel all right, if not good, or if not absolutely awesome and amazing and great, right? I know for myself, even with things being, you know, relatively, even though there's a lot of uncertainty for sure still, you know, things have been stable enough where I've, you know, had a job because of the field I work in. My job didn't go away, which was, you know, a blessing as far as the income, but as far as the stress levels, I would say like that was harder to manage for sure and still is. But definitely, you know, I'm not in the worst case scenario of places to be in, and you know, I'm not trying to like brag or like throw it into people's faces. You know, I almost feel bad, like in a way, like when I have things that are going like okay for me, where I'm like, damn, like things are going good for me, and I like look around and I'm like, wow, like a lot of people, you know, family I know, good friends I know who've lost jobs, who, you know, had like great careers where they were renting, you know, awesome like condos, and you know, people losing their condos, losing their jobs, losing their cars, losing, you know, their families falling apart, divorces, like, you know, not able to get like even like pensions or social security or appointments that they need for really important stuff. You know, stuff like that was coming up a lot, and it still is, you know, it hasn't fully gone away. And, you know, that affects me in a way, but it's not my, you know, firsthand my problems right now, but maybe secondhand in some cases, or, through word of mouth, and I do care. And even if I've never, even for the listeners, if I've never like heard your name or seen a message from you or talked to you ever in my life or seen any kind of anything from you and don't know who you are, I still care. I still would prefer everyone to be doing at least okay, and I'm just mentioning that because, I noticed that sometimes I don't even feel okay, and I'm just like, why don't I feel at least all right? Like, I think the suffering around really does impact me and other people as well. Even if it's not a firsthand issue that one of us may be going through, we can kind of see it around us, and it's really scary to see. And when it's your own self, it's really scary. And I've got friends who I'm like, man, they've got kids, and I'm, kind of like, I wonder if I should like send them some money, or like people who I know who have had the virus or recently got the virus, and then they're like, well, my work doesn't pay me to take time off and I have to not go to work, and like, how am I gonna like use all my savings now, or use, that money, or like I just got a job and this is like jeopardizing my position, and like, or people who have to go back to work now but their kids aren't in school, and it's like maybe they can't afford childcare. There's just so much going on right now. It's hang in there, guys. Hang in there. That's all I can really say. But the reason why that's kind of coming to mind is because something I was kind of thinking of pretty recently is like, when I'm not feeling good, what's usually worked for me in the past is going back to basics of stuff that I used to always enjoy, stuff that I don't have to really learn too much about, stuff that I already know, but maybe I haven't done it in a while. Maybe I haven't like geeked out on it in a while. At least if there's like free aspects to it, or very affordable or cheap aspects to it, and just trying to like get back into some stuff like that's convenient to do. And I kind of wanted to mention that, a lot of people who are tomboys or masculine presenting females or androgynous or non-binary or gender non-conforming, or an array of different gender presentations and gender identities. And one thing that kind of really comes to mind a lot, to me at least, with my own personal life is sports. Now, I was never officially involved in sports as through a school. I grew up playing basketball. Definitely, probably the most. I'd play basketball, soccer, football. I was in a league that also included baseball with the basketball and soccer. And then, I played some hockey, did some rollerblading, scootering. There was a point where I did a little skimboarding. I still do snowboarding, and different stuff like that. And, I was kind of thinking about it, and, like I've gone ice skating. I've, done like some sports that like maybe I'll do it maybe once a year, maybe a couple times a year as like a seasonal thing, but it's not like I train for it. And I'm just thinking, that's always been something that I've gone back to, training for sports, and then playing sports. And I kind of go back and forth, sometimes I want to be social with sports, right? Sometimes I want to get out there, meet people, use it as like a social interaction. Other times I want to kind of reach my own goals and feel better about myself and kind of be like, I don't mean it to sound like better about myself, like, oh, I'm looking better than other people, or, but just like my own goals, like health goals. Like, I feel like a lot of solo sports, you're able to really tell, like, okay, I'm improving on this skill. Like, I'm getting the motor memory down. I'm getting the foot motions down. My cardio's more on point. I'm able to run for longer. When I look back now, like, to where I used to be, I'm like, man, I used to be athletic to the point where I could run a mile and not really have to stop. Like, I could do more than a slight jog of a mile. Now I don't even think I can really even run a mile anymore, like nonstop, even jogging. So that is pretty depressing. On an elliptical, I can go pretty far. It's just the impact that's a little rough on me. On a treadmill, I can't. And but something I really notice about sports, the reason why I'm bringing it up for our type of people is because a lot of times you look around, maybe in the music industry, maybe in crafts, artistic things, even like dance, and sports as well. Like when you look around, a lot of times you see our type of people in a lot of these areas more obviously now. But I say back when I was younger, even like when Prince was still called Prince, Michael Jackson. This is like when I was really young, like Boy George. Even somewhat Sinead O'Connor, just because she had like the low haircut, the bald hair cut, or really close buzzed. A lot of musicians, David Bowie, you'd see like a lot of musicians that could kind of play with gender, and it was like, well, their music is dang good, so people, they might say something, but they're still jamming to it, they still appreciated the art. You see that a lot with music, with dance, with like ballet, figure skating, different sports where you see a lot of people being able to use certain like masculine or feminine qualities. Like figure skating, there are a lot of males who figure skate or who do ballet or who do like gymnastics, and you can even tell in a lot of sports, there's kind of like the masculine energy about certain things, or the masculine form, kind of like not physical form, but like when you have like a form in something like martial arts, or like when there's like a certain like there's a certain like range within like this is correct, and then like when your arms are out too wide or your legs aren't in this certain stance or whatever, like it's no longer the proper form, so like certain forms are kind of more masculine versus feminine. And I think sports and music and art and creativity, sports is a kind of like creativity with your own like body or mind. It's like a mental strength, a physical strength, and I really like it so much because one thing that you can really tell is like that you're improving, and you usually feel better. You feel like, okay, I learned something. Okay, I accomplished this. You go from like being clumsy, not able to do like certain footwork, or clumsy, not able to make certain plays, clumsy, not able to make a basket, not able to like hold the ball and shoot properly, not able to do enough push-ups or whatever. And you can work at it and work at it and work at it. And sometimes you see progress super fast. Right? And that's even when you're just like weightlifting, or working on your own cardio, or just doing your own like personal training or personal fitness, or I really like to do like sports skills. Like I'm not even really playing sports, but maybe I'll do like free throws, or maybe I'll do layups, or maybe I'll kick a ball against the wall or up a hill slightly and chase after it a little bit, or try to have like a kind of like a workout routine. Like I definitely like doing like martial arts forms like in the house, and like learning new movements and yoga and all these kinds of things. And like it's so cool because like it builds your body strength, it builds your muscle strength, it builds your endurance. When you do it, it builds. When you learn new skills, you're constantly building and improving, and your mind catches on. Your body-mind connection is really good, and it kind of gets you out of yourself. It gets you out of all the problems, even if it's something that's maybe that you're not like hot-wired to, like maybe it's something that's really kind of like a weakness almost, and it's really challenging for you to do. But the more you try, the more you kind of get it, and the more you're able to kind of understand it more. And even if it's something like walking or hiking, or I mean, I've been in such bad shape at times when, I could barely even like walk around the block or walk up the hill and back and feel okay. Like I would get like weird like strains in my legs and stuff, and I'm like, wow, this is the person who used to be able to play like 2 full soccer games, wake up, set up a whole field and stuff at 6 with my folks, and then stay afterwards. I'd collect cans for like for like extra side money, and then like my dad would pay us to do lines for the adult game, like soccer, like, you know, be linesmen for the soccer games for the adult males for 1 or 2 games. And then, you know, we cleaned the playground and the bathrooms and stuff in the school where people had been using it. We clean it up, and it's like we got paid to do this as well, you know, and it would be a Sunday, and I'd be there like 6 to almost 6 every Sunday. And I you know, part of me kind of didn't really want to, but I never really remember like fighting on it or feeling like I don't want to do this. Like that kind of hit me later, where I was like, yeah, I'm kind of like, when I look back, it's kind of a time in my life from like, I think we started playing sports in that league. It was developed in like when I was in 2nd grade, and the last time I played any sport in that league was like the first year of grad school. I played a little bit of soccer until I got injured. And so yeah, I mean, that was like most of my childhood, pretty much. 2nd grade all the way. That means I played all the way through college. I think there was a certain point where during college I only played soccer, I think. Because I think the female basketball only went up to like your senior year of high school or something. Because they put like, I guess they were called like the juniors or senior league or whatever it was called. Like they were age, like I think it was high school age or something, and they didn't have enough females that were older, and they didn't want to put like college women with, you know, younger women, because the age ranges would be too like, you know, too big of an age range. But yeah, I think it was super cool. Like, you know, I think it was co-ed. I think girls and guys were not co-ed unless it was like peewees. I think the peewees and maybe the minors were co-ed, and then juniors and seniors were just male or female. And then there was baseball that was co-ed, and there was soccer was co-ed as well. But in the seniors in soccer, that was like high school age, there weren't really a lot of females playing soccer. And then they actually had a women's league. And then, so if you were out of high school, or if you were like, I think high school females or just women in general who were older than 18 could play the women's league. And then the men's league was if you're out of high school. So it was college and to adult, like 30s, 40s year old adults playing soccer for males. And so yes, it was gendered into that aspect, as most sports kind of tend to be. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but I do notice, you know, and I get it, you know. But at the same time, it's like, I think that's a big challenge for people who aren't very like binary with their gender, or who might present more androgynously or kind of something like that, you know. I think a lot of times that might be a big deterrent for people actually playing sports, when they have that as, you know, part of their personality, part of their authentic being. It's kind of hard to want to join something that's so gendered, where there might be locker rooms involved, or, you know, uncomfortable situations in the bathroom, or people always asking you what your gender is, or people questioning you about your gender, or, you know, you're kind of on display too when you're playing sports a little bit. It is kind of like a spectator kind of situation where there are people watching, and, you know, watching your skills and stuff. And you know, a lot of times people feel uncomfortable. They don't want people like looking at them and like seeing what they do. But on the flip side, the reason why I was like, this is why I was so interested in talking about sports, is because you do see things that you don't often see. Yeah, so something that you maybe don't so often see is, I mean, something that you do kind of often get in a lot of sports too, especially kind of at younger ages, is, you know, kids being able to, or even adults, you know, being able to kind of find more people that are kind of like them. And this was kind of coming to my mind because today I was watching, you know, these YouTube videos, and it's called Self, SELF, and there was an episode, they have some episodes on there about different sports players or different types of people from certain sports kind of like trying skills from other sports, and then they reverse the roles vice versa. So like one, they had figure skaters and hockey players, and one of the figure skaters was a male, and he was kind of more, feminine type of mannerisms and, way of speaking, and kind of like, I don't know if the word flamboyant is appropriate to use. I never really, because it kind of implies a lot of things. I mean, but he was kind of like happy and kind of like friendly and really kind of like expressive. I think I like that better. He was like a really just like expressive, kind of like upbeat, kind of happy, guy that was kind of, he had a lot of his, emotions on the sleeve, especially the happy ones. Like he just seemed kind of like upbeat, like happy, joking, like jokes, just, joking with everybody, and like not really like stoic or very like rigid, or just like keeping his emotions to himself, or like blunted kind of affect. He wasn't like that. He was just really like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, how's everybody? And kind of just like really outgoing. And there was a lady who was kind of like short haircut. She played hockey. She was kind of more on the masculine presenting side. Mostly from the short hairdo, short haircut, but a lot of her style of skating was kind of more closer to like the masculine, the kind of masculine, kind of muscular movements than would be kind of like the more like like feminine kind of expressing guy, compared to how he had like very graceful, flowy, kind of like I don't want to say pretty, because I don't know, I always think of sports movements as kind of like there's like a beauty and art to it. It's very individualized. Everyone kind of has their own stances and things. There's this pitcher, I can't remember if he's on the Houston Astros or on the San Diego Padres, but he's got this really weird pitching, like his stance or his throw, kind of like he like tosses his back right leg kind of like way out, like kind of like I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what, kind of when people are joking around and they're like walking side by side, and then they do that little like how they kind of flip their leg like at their knee to kind of like kick a person's butt, and then they kind of do it back and forth to each other. That's the closest I can describe, but it's kind of like a more like extended version of that, because his leg isn't in so close as if he was hitting someone on their backside with the back of his foot. He was kind of doing it like more, and he has a lot of speed behind his pitches too. And so different things like that you just see with sports. You can kind of see like a feminine energy or a masculine energy, even if a person isn't a male or female. Like you can kind of, or there's something like in between. You can kind of see that with people's dancing too. Like there's kind of like effeminate kind of dancing, more masc kind of dancing, movements and things. And it's really cool. I mean, I really appreciate all that kind of stuff. I really like it. I really think it's awesome. But I think that's something too that people can kind of really get into, especially when you're struggling. And especially if you have a comfort of a past history being involved in sports, being involved with athletic things. It can be a lot of fun to, be able to have, friends who kind of get you. You can kind of have friends like, I had some female friends in sports where like, we didn't like play with Barbies and stuff. Like we go skate and like, watch Pokemon and, watch MTV and like go hang out with the boys and stuff. Like it was kind of different, we weren't like super girly sitting around talking about boys and crushes and dresses or whatever. I don't even know what really femme girls do, because I never really hung out with them too much, honestly. But I know a lot of them they would talk a lot, gossip a lot, talk a lot about emotions and things. With guys, I usually remember being like, oh, I'd like to kind of talk more and kind of like be more like emotional, and then they were kind of just like, hey, let's like wrestle. It's like, all right, so it was kind of like a different kind of dynamic, where I kind of noticed after a while that like there were certain things that I was naturally inclined to want to do, like be more emotional, and the guys around me were more like wanting to like, like not in a bad way, but they were kind of wanting to kind of like play and like roughhouse and like play sports or build stuff or like whatever. And I really enjoyed that too. And I really like playing with my guy friends, and that's how come I played sports so much. But there was a certain point in my life where I didn't only play sports. I did music and stuff like that too. And so, and I started just hanging out with people who were kind of maybe not so athletic too. So I had a lot of guy friends that weren't really good at sports and who were really kind of like more effeminate, kind of more sensitive boys. And, I kind of would fluctuate, between the different crowds of people. I could hang with the people that were considered kind of nerdy, kind of like bookworm type of people. I could hang with the people that were kind of athletic. I could hang with the people who were kind of like odd. I could hang with the people who were considered cool or like attractive that everyone had crushes on. I mean, I didn't really think any differently about any of them. I kind of saw costs and benefits to hanging out with every group, and I just never stopped making friends with different types of groups of people. I never really cared too much about those images and things. I was just like, well, if you seem to be an unhealthy force in my life, then I'm not really going to spend too much time with you. But I usually noticed most people didn't mind me hanging out with them. I wasn't like breaking any boy codes or girl codes or anything. I was able to just kind of chill. And I feel like, back then I wasn't really like, into pretty much anybody. Like I had like maybe a couple crushes, but not enough that I really knew what it was or what was going on or like to do anything about it. I just noticed certain people were kind of attractive, or certain people I get a little like nervous around them. I mean, certain people, there were certain guys that were like, I guess like black males that like, there weren't a lot of them at the school where I went. So a lot of them that were maybe a little older than me, I would start to kind of look at and be like, oh yeah, I think I kind of like that guy. There's this one guy, I really just liked him because he was really good at basketball, and I thought he always had these like cool shoes. He was a sneakerhead, so I always thought he was good at basketball. He was attractive, and he was kind of like clean cut, but I don't think I was really like into him. I just thought that, okay, well, I'm this dark-skinned person, I'm a black person, he's black. My parents always told me I was going to marry a black guy, and there aren't that many to choose from, so this has got to be one of the possibilities, so I better look into it. So I really liked him a little bit, but then I also got shy about it, because I figured, if I like him, I shouldn't really talk to him much. And then I never really, like, if I liked him, I felt like I shouldn't really talk to him much. And then I never really, basically I never really, like, talked to him. I never was really, basically I never really talked to him too much. But, I don't really think I liked him. I mean, honestly, like, looking back, I'm like, I just got, like, nervous, I guess, because I felt like, oh, I don't know how to, like, approach this guy. He's a little bit older, and, like, he clearly had, like, he never even, like, spoke to me. I think he spoke to me maybe, like, once or twice ever, but, it's kind of weird. And I remember telling one of my friends that I liked another black guy. I didn't even say that I liked him. I said that I liked this other guy. And there was some other guy that I thought I liked who was, like, really good at soccer. He was this Latino dude. I thought I liked him. He was a little older, like, maybe, I think he was, like, 16 or 18. He was, like, older than the rest of us kids, way older. But things like that, I kind of like guys that were, like, pretty skilled at sports. Because I played sports and I knew how hard it was to be like that skilled, but I don't think it was the same. It wasn't like a really romantic crush kind of thing. It was like, oh, these guys are cool. And, I was able to hang out with most of the guys, so nobody really cared. Nobody was like, here you come again, like, go back over there with those girls, or go back over there with the nerds, or go back over there. I basically could float between groups. But the reason why I mentioned sports is because sports, really, you can find a lot of people that might be like you, feminine, masculine, somewhere in between. There are a lot of basketball players that are kind of more masculine presenting that might be females. There are a lot of women in sports that might be a little more masculine presenting. They're even as adults, and there are a lot of, certain sports too, like especially like dance, ballet, like figure skating, if you ever seen Breakfast with Scott, it's a movie. I think it's a Canadian movie. Breakfast with Scott. Scott spelled SCOT. It's about basically a kid who, they're kind of questioning his sexuality because of kind of how kind of feminine presenting he kind of is, but then they find out that he's like super good because he's super good at figure skating. So they decided, one of the guys who was taking care of him, who was becoming his legal guardian or something along those lines, was like thinking like, oh, he's like really good at sports, or he's really good at figure skating, like he's a good skater, and that helps in hockey, and so like they got him into hockey, but he was just a good skater basically. But yeah, different stuff like that is so fascinating to me that sports can really help people to feel a little more welcome, to feel a little, even if it's not sports that you're going to be playing on teams or need to like actually interact, but like hiking, rock climbing, if you live near a beach, pretty much anything in the ocean, you don't really need teams for these things. Triathlons, marathons, 5Ks, there's so much stuff. Even like I was saying, sports skills. You can find a wall and kick a ball on it, get a tennis racket, smack a ball on there, chase it around. I mean, just learning sports skills for the sake of learning them. I'm getting back into rollerblading, which I'm super pumped up about. And like, when you look at like X Games or different kind of sports and things like that, and you look at maybe like the females in these sports, like they're really strong roles. They're really strong people. And you see them and you're like, sometimes they reflect you, like Lisa Leslie, or like someone who's like more a masculine presenting female, or, just in general, you see a lot of masculine presenting females, and you can start to like look into the sports and look into kind of like who the people are and learn kind of more about like their hobbies and lives. Like a lot of people have like Instagrams and YouTubes, and you can kind of go on there and find kind of athletes that are kind of more towards what you would want to maybe see, or people that you would maybe want to talk to. You can basically see a lot of people that are that might reflect you, and there's not a lot of representation out there. But when you look at sports, there's still going to be those minority groups, but then you can also look into like men's ballet or different sports like that, where it's like, even if you're not playing it yourself, or doing the sport yourself, or learning the skills yourself, you can kind of really get into, the appreciation for it and liking it, and, watching kind of like ballerinos, or watching kind of stuff about their lives. And like, I'm really big into that kind of stuff, especially when it's like, there are a lot of like male dominated or female dominated sports, and it's kind of interesting because you can see how the different people, like how people kind of have different like gender presentations, or like different like stances with things, or like their forms are different and things like that. It's just I don't know, there's something about it that I know not everybody's had great experiences with sports and things like that, athletics. But I really do recommend, especially for those who are able to do things, whose doctors aren't like, don't do anything. If you can find something you're able to kind of do, even if it's not athletic, even like artistic wise, looking in music, looking in different forms of arts. You see a lot of queer people. You see a lot of people, who make music, who maybe they're not even popular, but, they're out there and you can kind of relate to them more. And I think there's something about that for me has always been really helpful to like get back into sports, get back into creativity, get back into music, just get back into it. And especially because there's that representation there, you can kind of look and see people who do stuff, kind of more along the lines of how you can see yourself. You're not just like, this is for them. This is a thing that's for those people. I'm not like that. This is for that type of person. I'm not like that. I'm not a terrible dancer for myself. I'm really not. But the thing that makes me not want to dance is because, like, it's such a weird feeling for me. Because if I'm dancing on my own, like, just by myself in my room, just rocking out to some music, I have more of a masculine style of kind of dancing, but it's not quite masculine. It's like, it's a little femmish. That's what I would kind of prefer. But in a club, that's kind of weird, like people all, depending what you listen to, people want to be like backing it up or like have a flowy kind of like, like pretty looking vibe to them and things like that. And like, I'm just like, man, that's not really kind of how I relate to the music, but I also noticed that like, I feel that it might be perceived as a little bit weird. 'Cause I know how girls dance. I don't dance like that, so it's kind of like, all right, I can do it like by myself, even in my room, and I don't even feel right about like shaking it like that too much, but guys can shake it too, like, so it's pretty fun. Like, I think it's fun. I think like different things you can look at with like athletic sports, with art and creativity. But definitely, yeah, check out sports, you guys. I'm definitely recommending, even if you're just on YouTube, like watching, people teaching you random skills about how to do different stuff, you can find a lot of athletes that look like you that are kind of talking to just anybody in general who wants to learn. But the thing that's kind of fascinating is that you don't really see a lot of people that might look like us kind of out there doing stuff. But that's one way to kind of get more into them. Because like if you're kind of fangirling or fanboying over like one of your, people that you've met or people that you've come across their content, and then you're like, oh, like they're awesome, oh, they're cool, and then you kind of look, on Instagram or something and see other people who are following them, and you'll look and see a bunch of people who are very similar to, your own self, and, I'm not saying you like go and like stalk them or create a community or something, but, it just kind of helps people to feel less alone in things, and it's healthy, or it should be healthy. It can be healthy. And it's fun, and, a lot of people keep posting content. It's pretty motivating, to see or to hear their progress, or to see or to hear kind of things that they're, trying to mention for you to do. So that's definitely something I would recommend. It's definitely something that I would say is, important to try to see, kind of what you think, kind of see what you, might notice. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought because there's this family who keeps walking around the block. But yeah, you might lose your thought process. You might get kind of confused a little bit. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how it goes. But, I do find it very good and very interesting that, you're definitely going to be able to see that there are people out there that are like you, males and females, and people who probably don't identify as either, or, kind of see both in themselves. There are so many different ways of kind of learning about things and getting into things, and I do think it's important. That's why I'm mentioning it. I think it's something that's important for people to take into account and not, feel discouraged that things aren't going right now. Yes, take care of the things that aren't going right. Don't just like avoid them, or you keep trying hard for sure. But, it's good to have an outlet that's a healthy outlet And I really do find sports, music, art, as as things that are just so, valuable. Like I mentioned, if you do them, you get better at them, you develop skills. It's maybe not so much about getting good. It might just be about learning some new stuff. And then, if you leave it for like a couple years, it kind of fades out of your memory, but you can always kind of pick it back up again too, which is the cool part. It's never done. You can always start something and then just like, if I want to leave it for a decade, once I do get like way busier, or once, if I just decide I don't want to do this anymore, you might decide later on that, hey, when you might unfortunately get sick or get an injury or something and be like, I mean, God forbid, but, be like I have a friend who's kind of like on bed rest right now. And it's like, sometimes you never had any hobbies that were kind of more sedentary, but it's like, yeah, if you had like art and things like that, maybe you'd be able to still do that kind of stuff. Techie stuff, like anything you can do just kind of like laying there, sitting there. So yeah, I just want people to consider all these things. You don't have to listen to me, but yeah, that's the information I wanted to put out there for today. As usual, I'm about to go eat dinner, so thanks for listening, guys.